let's talk about your fitness journey.
Yeah.
Because that fitness journey, you told me, has a lot tied into the subject that we're talking about today.
Learning about nutrition and fitness was something that I could take into my own hands and something that I could do. Getting over is not really something that I believe ever happens. It's you learn to live with it and learn to use it for your strengths. Have you heard of fear setting before, Josh?
I have not heard of fear setting.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to the Reach Forward podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hedrick. Your eyes do not deceive you. I have a guest in the studio today. Everybody, I want to introduce to you Lydia, a great longtime co-worker of mine and colleague. And Lydia, welcome to the Reach Forward podcast.
Thanks, Josh. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, and again, I'm just really excited to finally have somebody right next to me that I can actually talk to, and not talking to a screen, not talking to myself. It's a little bit of like goosebumps and jitters with like the fact that like I've got somebody right in front of me and that we're going to talk and everything like that. But again, I think what's really going to help with it is the fact that like we've worked with each other for a long time. We know each other. So it'll be pretty much just like we're at a coffee shop and just catching up.
Exactly. Two buds hanging out.
Yeah, two buds hanging out. Exactly. So, well, yes. So, again, Lydia, the Reach Forward podcast, it's really all about bringing communities together in the fitness industry. And you were definitely somebody right away that I was thinking, yeah, I got to get her on the show. And we're going to get into that later. But how has everything been? I hear some new things have developed in your life recently.
Yeah, I got married a couple weeks ago.
Woo!
Yeah, it's very exciting. Some people may even be watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and finding out here because we haven't told everybody yet. So if you haven't heard, surprise!
Hey, nothing like a good marriageal surprise, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So happy for you. I'm all about love and marriage and all that stuff. So yeah, really happy for you too.
Appreciate that.
So today we're going to be talking a lot about a topic in which you know very, very well. And before we really get into that topic, I want to dive right into it. Let's talk about your fitness journey.
Yeah.
Because that fitness journey, you told me, has a lot tied into the subject that we're talking about today. So Lydia, take us through it. Tell us about your fitness industry journey or your journey into the fitness industry.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey into the fitness industry kind of starts when I was 13. I was diagnosed with a disease called Stargardt's disease that kills my cones and rods, which are cells in my eyes. So I can't just wear glasses and have my vision corrected with glasses because the cells are just dead. So it was a whole process of getting this diagnosis and then having to seeing my vision change and then having to find the diagnosis because no one else in my family had ever had it before. So we had to see a bunch of different specialists, and I got diagnosed with the wrong thing at first and told that I was going to lose all of my vision. And then my mom was like, no, we need a second opinion. So we went to a few different places and eventually got the correct diagnosis. And at that point in my life, I'm a 13-year-old. I was playing sports, but not really caring about health and fitness in any capacity besides that. I loved and still love food. And I could knock out an entire box of Cosmic Brownies without a second thought. I could eat an entire bag of salt and vinegar chips, whole pizza, lay on the couch all day. Just like didn't really care about fitness and nutrition at all outside of just being someone who's playing sports in middle school. And when I got that diagnosis and I started to lose my vision, it kind of shifted my perspective on health because it was something that I could not control. And I decided that I wanted to take the parts of my health that I could control into my own hands. So that led me to become more interested about nutrition and fitness and kind of pursue my own education as a 13-year-old because my family was not super into it. Like we were all active in sports and we went on walks and bike rides, but no one had really a structured routine that was talked about a lot. My dad was very regular at the gym, but it was not something that we ever really discussed. So I had to kind of seek it out myself, especially the nutrition side of things. I was very fortunate to have a family that we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, most of it together. And my mom cooked a lot of the food, which was really great, but it wasn't always maybe the healthiest things. We had our vegetables at every meal, but it wasn't talked about like why that's important. And I had to do a lot of research on my own and start finding out about those things, and I started working out on my own outside of the sports that I was doing. And at the time when I'd first started this journey when I was 13, I weighed 186 pounds, and I ended up losing around 60 pounds of that during that time. Wow. Over those first couple of years. And throughout that process, a lot of different things happened, and I ended up being in a not so great relationship, and I ended up leaving the town that I was in, moving down to the cities from up north to get out of that situation, because at this time now I'm 14 or 15 and didn't really know what to do to get out of that situation. So I left that town and had an opportunity to go to performing arts high school, and was very isolated during the time. It was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot about myself during that time, but it was very isolating. And then a few other things happened. It was kind of a domino effect of one not so great thing after another. And then I was in this isolated space, and I ended up developing an eating disorder during that time that kind of stuck with me throughout the rest of my high school years. And since recovering from that, and throughout that process of recovering, I've changed my relationship with nutrition and fitness while also learning more about it. And what really brought me to the fitness industry was wanting to help people who have gone through similar things, where they maybe have had some challenges occur in their life and have wanted to make a change, but then be that guidance to keep people from falling down that kind of slippery slope of doing too much and going too extreme with things like fitness and nutrition, because it can be really tricky if you get kind of almost addicted to the ways that your body can change and the way that you can feel, and want more and more and more, and then get these accolades and affirmations from people that you look so good, you must be doing so well, and you can get kind of addicted to that feeling. And it can be tough if you don't have someone guiding you and helping you during that time to do it in a healthy way. So that was kind of my motivation for getting into the fitness industry as a career. And I'd originally wanted to do dietetics when I first started college, but then realized that I hate chemistry and I did not want to do the way through OChem. That was going to be way too much. So I tried out some different things and then found this field of health coaching. And then from there, I got more into fitness. So that's kind of my very long and twisty story of how I got into the fitness industry.
Yeah. And again, there's so many points of like important facts through that fitness journey. Let's start with kind of that first one. You were diagnosed at age 13. And even there was a point where you were misdiagnosed, where you thought you were just going to lose your vision like altogether. But it turned out like, nope, it's just something that's like a degenerative, you would say. And you're in a family that, health and fitness was definitely prompted. You said you played sports, you ate well. You didn't eat like super unhealthy. You ate well. But it was nothing that was like super prompted from your family as far as like health and fitness is just a prominent part of your life. It was a part of your life, but it wasn't like an absolute just big focal point of your life. So when you kind of go from something like that, and then all of a sudden you had this strong interest in learning more about how to help yourself. I mean, again, you said it like you lost 60 pounds. You were, feeling really good about, just how you felt. So going from, where you were to where you are at that point, a couple of years after that, what do you feel like was the driving force? Was it the diagnosis? Was it just, I need to like get healthier, so hopefully this can like be taken care of? What do you feel like was the driving force for you to get all the information, learn so much about it, and just go through that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was a mix of some different things. And looking back on it now, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I probably would have given you a different answer. But I do think at the time it was something that I could control. And I felt like all of these things were happening around me, and I had this diagnosis that was taking something from me that I didn't have any control over. So learning about nutrition and fitness was something that I could take into my own hands and something that I could do. And I remember, and I don't always tell people this, when I got that diagnosis, a big thing that I remember thinking was that who is ever going to love a blind and fat girl? Because I knew I was going to lose my vision, and I was overweight at the time. And that was something that it makes me really sad for younger me to remember feeling that way, because it's a tough time being 13, like the preteen years, the teen years, and then going through a diagnosis like that while also hitting puberty and having your body go through changes. And kids are mean when you're that age. So that was kind of the driving force that got me into it, which is not like the rose-colored glasses kind of view that I think sometimes you think about, like, it could be a really beautiful story if it was something else, like, oh, I really wanted it to just be for my health, but it really wasn't about my health when I first started, even though that was a part of it. It was more of things that I could control that so happened to have to do with health. And now where I'm at, things have completely changed, and I'm very much into fitness for the health. And the reason that I wanted to move into this as a career was and is to help people with their health because of the path that I took, and to give that guidance to people. But that really was the driving factor for me when I was young and dumb and didn't know any better.
Yeah, but that totally makes sense, especially with like what you went through. I feel the same way. Like, there were so many times where I feel like people were misunderstood for certain things, or, I was even bullied when I was younger too. Teen years were tough. So I'm with you. Like teen years were really, really tough. And fitness is just something that, like you said, you have control of. You take care of yourself. But then, there's a certain point where I can totally understand where you get to a point where you're like, I can do this to help others and make sure that they don't feel like the same way I did, or maybe like help them get through a time where maybe they might go through the same thing. So no, I totally understand that.
Thinking about like the fitness journey, I do think that a lot of people, when they are starting a fitness journey, it does kind of come from a place of like self-loathing in a lot of ways, and wanting to change the way that your body looks, which is unfortunate that that's the main driver that gets people a lot of times into fitness. And then the journey of it. And one thing that I love being a coach is getting to help people realize that there's so much more that fitness can do for you outside of just the aesthetic side of things. And that has been a journey that I've been on, that I've helped people through. Like, I love the moment when I get to rip up an in-body scan that has everybody's measurements on it, because they're just telling me all these other positive things. Maybe their scan didn't go the way that they wanted to, but they're feeling really great. And then we can have this beautiful moment where they realize that how much I weigh and what I look like doesn't really matter to me anymore. And what's important to me is that I can get on the ground with my kids and play with them and not have any pain, and be able to actually do that. And that's a really cool thing to help people shift their perspective around health and fitness.
Absolutely. And with that said, the helping, you talked about it, like you almost helped yourself. You were saying like you were, in not the greatest relationship, and then you moved out of your small town. You moved to the Twin Cities, and it's a totally different life, totally different. You're. I'm sure there might have been just a little bit of a shock. I don't know. Maybe you were feeling okay.
Ooh, there was a lot of shock. I lived in New Brighton, and I went to school in Hopkins, if anybody is familiar with the Twin Cities area.
Yeah, so that's probably like a 40-minute drive.
Well, the thing was, I didn't have a car because I can't drive, because I can't see, because I'm visually impaired. So I had to take city buses for an hour and a half each direction, sometimes 2 hours, depending on the day and the traffic. Had to switch buses once downtown. And looking back, me and my mom always laugh about this, about how did she let her 14-year-old daughter just move to the big city and take the city bus by herself. But I'm really grateful that I got the opportunity to do it, because I learned so much about myself, and it really set me up for success when I did get to the next point in my life where I did officially move out and lived completely on my own, because during that time I've been living with some family. So I wasn't completely alone, but it was a crazy time to be in the big city and seeing all these different kinds of people coming from a very small area.
But there's a lot of resilience in that. That's a very resilient way of like living life, where you've completely taken yourself out of your small town and put into the city. You're having to take buses. You're having to pretty much just learn how to like live by yourself or take care of yourself. That's resilience. So, it also kind of makes me think about, again, the condition that you have, and the fact that you have been, how long have you been coaching or in like the fitness industry?
About 5 years.
Yeah. So in those 5 years, you've been very resilient, having to, deal with the fact that like, your sight isn't like 100% there. And, as most people know, if you're coaching people, if you're cueing, if you're trying to make sure that they're doing the right form and the right thing, you got to have vision. So I guess one big thing that I want to know, and I'm sure everyone wants to know, is, what do you feel like is the one thing that you've learned with having this condition, but how to still be an amazing coach?
Okay. Great question. Coming at me with all these great questions. So before talking about that, I want to give a little bit more context to my vision myself, just because like I don't want people out here thinking
Yeah.
I have absolutely no vision and I'm coaching people with nothing,
Yes,
because
which-
that would
which
be
is
a lot
very
more
important.
challenging.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's people that do that and can do that effectively, because I believe that people with disabilities can do just about anything that they want to.
100%.
I probably couldn't fly a plane. Maybe not that. Maybe we'll draw the line there. But for me, so my vision is about 2400 right now, and I have a blind spot in my central vision. So that means when I look right at you right now, I can't see your head at all. So now I'm looking above you, but I'm actually looking at your head. And then 2400, what that means is somebody who has like the 20/20 vision, what they can see is standing 400 feet away from, I'd have to be standing 20 feet away to see the same thing that they see from 400 feet. So you might have to back that up and play that again to make that all make sense, because it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. But that's just a little bit more context to what my vision actually looks like. So I can't see things in the middle, and then everything else on the outside is just kind of blurry shapes and colors. So going back to your question around what is like the number one thing that I've done to help me be able to work in the fitness industry, I think having the confidence to know that I can do it is really the biggest thing, and just to take that leap and give it a shot. And there's of course lots of other smaller things that we can talk more about, but when you think about like the number one thing, it's really just taking the leap and doing it, even though it's uncomfortable and it's scary, and it's knowing that you're going to have to learn new ways of doing things and be resilient and be adaptable, having the confidence in yourself and believing that you will find a way to make it work.
Courage.
Yeah.
It really takes a lot of courage to just come to that realization of, nope, I just got to try. I just got to do it. So that's exactly what I was hearing from that sentence, is just the courage to not only put yourself out there and, hey, you're going to fail. You're going to succeed. It's going to, both things are going to happen. You might fail more than you succeed, but once you get that succession, you're never going to lose it. You're always going to hold onto it. And I feel like that's probably something that has happened. I'm sure there's times that you failed, but then you found that one success and you held onto it, right?
Yeah. Well, even going back to when I first left my small town and went to this big city,
Yeah.
I didn't really think too much of it. I just all of a sudden am there, and
Very
I did
true.
it. And it's those little things that you have to keep doing. You have to keep trying and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, whether you are somebody that has a disability or not. If you don't think you're going to be able to do something, you're never going to be able to do it. And I'm a big believer that what we tell ourselves and what we believe really does create a lot of our reality. So for me, like continuing to almost like not think about the possibility of it not working out, and just think, I'm going to do this, and we're just going to do it and see what happens, and committing to it, and one thing after another. And there's been many times when I've had clients come into the gym and I thought they were someone else, and I was like, "Hi, Stacy," and they're like, "It's Todd." I'm like, "My bad." And you just got to brush it off and realize it is what it is, and laugh about it. And I think that's another big thing, is being able to laugh about the silly mistakes that you make and learn from maybe the more serious ones. And I'm also a big believer that there's never any failures. There's only wins and learns.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the learning, especially. I feel like it's just, you're always learning, even in wins, even in successes, you're learning. So I 100% agree with you there. How long do you feel like it took until you felt like comfortable with coaching, with not having the full sight?
Ooh.
Because it's going to be different for everybody that goes through the process of getting over a condition that maybe is going to hold them back in any sort of career. Obviously, we're looking at the fitness industry, but I was curious, like, how long do you feel like it got to a point where you felt comfortable?
Yeah. Well, first off, something you said there, getting over, is not really something that I believe ever happens. It's you learn to live with it and learn to use it for your strengths. Because a couple words we've said a couple times are resiliency and adaptability.
Yeah.
And I would not have those things, and those would not be cores of who I am if I did not have this disease, and if it was not something that I work with every day. I look for embracing it and looking for the bright sides of the situations and the silver linings. And for me, I think the biggest thing that really made me feel comfortable was once I got to know my community, and I got to know my clients and my members, and I knew that if I called Stacy Todd, she was going to also laugh about it, because she knew me and knew that it was because I couldn't see, and it was just going to be a big funny thing. And I don't know if I could give you an exact like timeline. Maybe probably less than a year it took me to like get really close with our clients that we had there. But I do remember my first day coaching in our Minneapolis gym. It was terrifying, because I had these groups of 8+ people coming in the door, and I was like, how am I going to be able to remember who these people are? Because I knew some of their names ahead of time, but I had to learn what are the cues that I have. Like, I'd figure out this person has these blue shoes and this is her shoes. And that's how I'm going to remember her, is because she always has these blue shoes. Or this guy always wears a hat. And that's how I'm going to recognize him, is that he comes to the 5 o'clock and he wears a hat. So I'd have to come up with like these cues of the things that were maybe not facial appearance, but things that stuck out to me about people until I learned their voices. And then that's the next piece. After I could have like a distinguishing thing, I'd eventually learn everyone's voice. So then they'd come in and I'd say hi, and I wouldn't say a name, but then they'd respond, and then I'd know who it was because I would have learned their voice. So it of course takes longer to learn those things than immediately see someone's face and memorize it. But it was paying attention to the small details that other people wouldn't really think about. And that's just the people side of things. Then there's also this workout on the board that I'm having to remember, because when I'm standing 3 feet or more away from the board, I can't see what this board says with my workout for the day. So I have to memorize the workout so I could go to all of the stations and demonstrate everything without having to run back to the board every time and check what it was. So it definitely takes more work on the front end. We're not even getting to the workout yet of what that actually looks like coaching people live. But beforehand, a lot of thought of checking through things and making sure that I have all of my bases covered so that I could feel confident going into a session working with people. And then actually working with people, you can ask anyone I've coached before. I like to run around the room. I'm constantly going all over the place because I have enough vision that I can see when I'm close to somebody. So far away across a gym, I might not be able to see very well what's going on if somebody's moving correctly. So it meant that I had to hustle more during my sessions and go to check on people, since these are group training sessions we were doing most of the time. I was always running around. I'd get usually like 3,000 steps in my session, just running around the place, checking on people, getting in close. And I think for me, like it's a strength in a lot of ways that I have this disability, because I understand that other people might also learn things differently than your average person, because I've had to always learn things differently and try to do things different ways that work for me. So it's almost like a natural instinct for me to, if something doesn't work for somebody, like maybe I'm saying a cue to them and that doesn't really resonate with them, to then try showing them or kind of repositioning them and try these different things, even though maybe I'm like, why do you not understand this? That should make sense. But to know right away, okay, this doesn't work for this person, so let's try something different. And it was very easy for me to do that because it was something that I grew up having to do.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing. I mean, again, I feel like that whole paragraph, just segment,
my monologue,
not only will help someone that maybe is, wanting to get in the fitness industry, but has some sort of condition, disability where they feel like, they're not feeling super comfortable. Not only will that make them feel comfortable, I also feel like everything that you just said right there can go for people, that maybe, don't have a disability or condition. I feel like everybody, the whole demographic population, can listen to what you just said and learn so much. Number one, you talked about the movement all around the ground and like where the area is that the group session is happening. I 100% agree. The more movement and the more ground that you track in a given group session, you are not only more impactful to the energy, to the attention, and just to the overall experience of your clients, but you are also going to keep yourself attentive. You're going to keep yourself alert for everything. I always tell a lot of people that I coach that are looking to become trainers is that's like probably one of the most important things. If you're standing in one place and you're coaching, it's not going to be impactful. But if you go around, it's going to be impactful. And you just mentioned it. So that's number one. Number two, just that first day that you were talking about sounds exactly like the first day I had doing at the company that we worked at together. I felt like my first day.
Yeah.
Where I just was like doing so many different things. I didn't feel like I was prepared for this. I had to remember somebody's name. And then I was like, okay, well, this person loves to talk about the Vikings. So remember them because they're probably going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. And then, there's one person that has like white New Balance that have grass stains on it. So I got to remember that's his name. He has the white grass stain New Balances. All that type of stuff. So it's crazy that that's the way that you felt.
Yeah.
It's the same way that I felt. So no matter what, I feel like anybody that's getting into the fitness industry, they're going to go through that. And then from there, all you have to do is just, like you said, adapt. And you have to, fail, and then you succeed, and then you learn from everything. It's all the same. So it's almost like, nope, you are going to be successful if you do this, if you have this condition. But if you don't have a condition, you have to do this because this is where you're successful.
Yeah.
Scrap that. Everything is pretty much the same, no matter what, on how to be successful, being in the fitness industry.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I said before. I need to ask for the number one thing. And it really is, again, just like having the confidence and the courage to take that first step and to believe in yourself to do it. Because as your experience shows, with not being somebody that has a disability, we're all going to go through that feeling of discomfort when we first start something new. Like anybody in any situation who has started something new has gone through that feeling.
Yes.
And you just have to figure out how to navigate it yourself. And that's going to be different from how you do it, from how the next person does it. And that's okay. And not letting anything hold you back from doing what you want to do. If you believe that you can do it, you're going to be able to do it. Except fly a plane.
Except fly a plane. Exactly. Well, talking a little bit on that as far as, just learning and, getting better from learning. As far as cueing, you talked a little bit about cueing. Obviously, with one of your senses not fully like working to its full capability, I wanted to ask you if you had to give one single form of advice to a coach, all coaches out there, on how to better or what to think about when trying to better your cueing to clients, what would you say? And I feel like it's going to be very important to hear from you. Because again, one of your senses isn't working to its full capability. Yeah. So how or what would you give as far as advice on how to better their cueing?
I think really being adaptable and being okay with doing it different for each person and figuring out what each person needs. Because again, the person A is going to need something very different from person B. Possibly. They might be okay, but oftentimes you're going to have people that each learn differently and that each function differently. So taking the time to try different things, even if, again, maybe it makes you feel uncomfortable to try cueing in a different way. If maybe you do normally verbally cue, maybe try getting right down next to them and doing the exercise with them and having them look at you and try something more visual, which is ironic considering the topic of our conversation that I'd use visual as a reason.
Yeah.
And then also asking the person like how they learn best. If you're having a client that maybe you just can't seem to get through and you're trying everything, taking the time to connect with them, maybe outside of a session even, and saying, hey, how do you learn best? What can I do to better connect with you and make this make sense?
Yes.
And showing them that you care about them. And then that's going to translate into your session when you're cueing if you actually know, because if you never ask and you're not having success, you're probably never going to find out, which again, sometimes as a coach in that setting, it's going to feel uncomfortable to do that because you feel like you are the expert and you should know. And something that I'm a firm believer in when it comes to fitness and working with people is that although we are the fitness experts, they are the expert of themselves. And you are never going to know them and their body better than they do themselves, even though you know the movements and the exercises that we are doing probably better than they do.
Yes.
The individual knows themselves better than you do. So it's always important to cater everything to the person that's in front of you. And then if you can't seem to make it click, to have the confidence to ask them.
Yeah. I always tell my clients, you know your body better than I do. They really do. So, if there's ever a time where I feel like I can't tell if it's, something that's like discomforting or if it's just, they're pushing in like a good exercise way, I always ask them, your body, talk to me.
Yeah.
But I love what you just said, because it's so important that you do have that connection. You have that conversation regularly with your clients. I mean, again, at the company we worked at, we had a standard where you had to have, a one-on-one kind of conversations and check-ins with your clients for something simply exactly like that. Like, again, you're going to talk about like the results. You're going to talk about how to get to the next step, how to progress. But enough times, maybe coaches don't do that, where they talk about, hey, I want to know how to better cue you with Romanian deadlifts. It's always the number one, like toughest. I feel like deadlifts in general are just tough to like really cue and get it down. So yeah, it is really talking to your client and saying, how can I cue you the best? What do you feel like works best for you when someone's trying to coach you on how to adjust your form? I love what you just said, because it's so important.
Yeah. And kind of, so shifting topic a little bit, but I feel like it aligns with what we're talking about right now. The other piece with the cueing is kind of the form correction side of things, which for me, as someone with a visual impairment, I'd say form correcting is more challenging than cueing, because cueing for me, I don't need to see in order to cue them. They need to see me, of course.
True.
But it's easier for me to like vocalize what we're doing and have them look at me rather than me have any reason to really see at that point.
Yeah.
But for form correction, seeing what someone is doing wrong definitely was more challenging. And for that, with the questions and asking the client, one thing that I would always do if I maybe wasn't quite sure, like from across the room, I could tell that something funky was going on, asking, how does that feel? Is that a good hurt or a bad hurt? And asking them more questions, because maybe I can't quite see exactly what's going on, but I can tell that maybe there's something off. So asking them questions around their form correction so that I can get a better idea of, okay, how might I be able to change this movement for them to make it better, even if I can't maybe see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And again, it's so important that you talk and that you communicate with your clients like that. And again, like, I'll admit, like, I'd say like years ago, before I like really knew how important that was, it probably wasn't something that I did, because I was just like, oh no, yeah, I can see it. Like, I know exactly what you need to do to like get into the proper form. But who knows, maybe sometimes getting in that proper form maybe hurt the client. Maybe it was very uncomfortable for the client in a way that like they maybe were, if they ever did workouts on their own, they were probably doing it wrong, because it felt, again, but I wouldn't have known that. Yeah. So again, it goes back to the point of communicating and just getting to know your clients, and really getting to that point where you have that one-on-one trainer-client relationship and connection, where you just know exactly what to do. It takes time, but once you get there, it's success is just constantly going to be rewarded, but it takes a lot of failure and it takes a lot of learning to get to that point, like you just mentioned. Excellent. Well, so we've talked about, the condition that you have and how you've been so resilient and so courageous breaking into the fitness industry. And I mean, I'll be honest, like Lydia, like I've talked to people that have worked with you. I've talked with people that have been clients of yours, and even the community that like I run and is at my gym, and you have come and subbed in for me. Everybody is just so loves the way that you coach. They say they have such high praise for you. Aww. So yeah, so you get a lot of high praise. And if I were to tell them like, you're pretty much legally blind, they would not believe me. They would be like, no, there's no way. There's no way. Like they would be flabbergasted by it. So with you telling your story of your fitness journey, breaking in the fitness industry, for anybody out there that maybe has a condition, has a disability that's held them back, and they've really wanted to break into the fitness industry, after hearing your story, what do you feel like is the one piece of advice you were to give that person if they were, thinking about breaking into the fitness industry and they just don't know really how to, or, finding the courage, finding the confidence to? What would your advice be to them as far as breaking into the fitness industry?
Yeah. I feel like my first thought is phoning up Nike and saying, just do it. But I know that that's sometimes a lot easier said than done. So putting on my coach hat, I think about taking the small steps that you can towards doing the thing that you want to do and building confidence. Because if it's something that, if you have a disability or another challenge of whatever sort, or maybe you just are really nervous about getting into the fitness industry in the first place, but it's something that you really want and that you're really passionate about, setting a small goal for yourself, that's going to be one step in building the confidence in yourself to do it. Like maybe it is, after seeing this podcast, it's messaging Josh or myself and saying, hey, I'm really interested in getting in the fitness industry, but I don't know where to start.
Yes.
Reaching out, asking for help. That's a great first step, and that's going to build your confidence, and it's going to force you into a little bit of that discomfort, but then you're going to learn that, okay, I can do this, and building those small wins, which we do this with clients a lot of times. If somebody has a really big goal, we're not going to say, okay, you got 2 weeks and you're going to get to that goal. It's going to be, okay, what do we want to do this week? what is the one small thing that we can do that we can accomplish this week? So I'd say apply that same kind of mindset mentality. If you are not in a place where you think that you can just say, I'm going to go all in and I'm just going to do it. If you're not there yet, then what is the one small thing that you can do to build that confidence? And along with that, as kind of mentioned before, asking for help, looking for people who are doing the thing that you want to do or who are going through something similar to what you have gone through, and asking for advice and talking through it. And sometimes even just having a conversation and seeing someone else that has proven that it's possible to do it can be what you need to get yourself to do the thing, because you know that it is possible and you are capable because someone else in the same boat has done it.
Exactly. And I mean, number one, everybody, like if you are hesitant of getting into the fitness industry, whether it be a condition or not a condition, but you need somebody to help you kind of like just see if it's a possibility, absolutely reach out to me. Absolutely reach out to anybody that you feel like you have a good relationship with, or you feel like you have a trust with, because that is super important. Even if it's somebody that you know at a gym that you go to and you have a trust and connection with them and they are in the fitness industry, like, just talk to them. But I like the baby step approach. Really, it's just, it's not going to be, you take one step and all of a sudden you're working at a big box or a small box gym in the fitness industry. Sometimes it does take smaller steps for you to gain that confidence. I see it as, it's a way of, there's got to be like a hunger to it, where you have to be hungry enough to like take that first step. But at the same time, you have to almost like slow it down. It doesn't have to be a fast track. It can be as slow as you want it to be. And you're almost saying it should be slow. It should be at a pace that you feel like you're gaining the confidence and you're gaining the comfortability to do so.
Yeah. And I think that, so thinking about like the fitness industry or anything that you're trying to do, it doesn't have to be building confidence with just that one thing. Like for me, you could say I just jumped all in because I'd never worked in the fitness industry before I applied for the company that we worked together. I said, let me try to be a personal trainer, even though I had no education or experience in that realm, but it was something that I felt passionate about wanting to do. And I just did it. But it was after all of these other things, like leaving my small town, that built my confidence, like working at a moving company that built my confidence. Even though those things have nothing to do with working in the fitness industry, they built my confidence, that I proved to myself that I could do hard things and I could be uncomfortable and be successful, even being in those uncomfortable spaces. So it doesn't always have to be like specifically the thing that you want to do that builds your confidence, but things that are challenging and proving to yourself that you can do things that are hard.
Wow. Yeah. Wise words. I mean, really, it is, because it's just, even just you going through that monologue, I just feel like it's empowering. It's empowering for people to just understand that, like, you're making steps toward one thing, but it doesn't have to be that one thing. Like, sometimes we get so fixated on that one thing, but it's like, no. There's so many other things that can happen in your life that can almost get you to the point that you want to, not just like one singular. If it's the fitness industry and you think like, I have to work in the fitness industry, I have to work at a gym, I have to train people. It's like, no. Like, there are other things that you can do in life that can help you with client relationships, that can help you with, how to communicate with clientele, stuff like that.
Yep.
That isn't even related to fitness, but like you mentioned, you just take those steps, you gain confidence, you get comfortable, and then eventually when it's going to be the right time to push that button.
And something else, as you were talking, I don't know why this came into my mind just now, but there's another tool that is kind of a fun thing to use. I think it's kind of fun when you're trying to like make a decision and do kind of like that big leap that feels really scary. It's something called fear setting. Have you heard of fear setting before, Josh?
I have not heard of fear setting.
Okay. So it's the opposite of goal setting in some ways. And it's for those times, like, let's say when I'm first going to work in the fitness industry, when I'm applying there, it's thinking about the worst possible case scenarios that could come out of you doing this thing and making this decision, and then creating your game plan for what are you going to do if the worst possible situation happens. So for me, working in the fitness industry, first possible worst case scenario is I don't get the first job I apply for. What am I going to do? I'll apply for another job. Maybe I'll go get some experience. Or I work for this company and I realize it's not a good fit. Then I'll look for a different job. And when you do that, you think of like the top like 3 or 4 worst possible case scenarios, worst possible outcomes, and then come up with your plan for what are you going to do if the worst possible thing happens. You'll realize, okay, actually, that's probably not so bad. Because sometimes when we're thinking about making a really big decision and taking this big leap, it can feel really scary and overwhelming. And like the world is going to fall apart if we do this thing and it doesn't work out. But then when you take the time to actually think through, like, what would that look like if it doesn't work out, you kind of bring yourself back down to earth and realize the worst possible case scenario actually isn't that bad. And I'm going to be okay, even if I do this and the worst thing happens, which doesn't work for everybody, but if you're somebody who does feel like you get all this overwhelm when you're thinking about making a big decision, that might be a really useful tool to try out.
I feel like that is definitely a tool I'm going to use, and that's going to help me. And I guarantee there are going to be people listening and watching this podcast that are going to feel the same way. Before we head on to the final question, Lydia, I actually wanted, so with this podcast, my biggest thing is making sure that we get out to not only owners and operators of gyms, but also consumers of gyms. Yeah. When you talk about that, it's fear initiative?
Fear setting.
Fear setting. So when you talk about fear setting, like you just did, do you feel like that's something that also consumers, when they're thinking about where to go or what gym to like actually join, what gym community to actually join, do you feel like that's something they could do too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that also for people who are looking to get into a gym and work out in a gym and not necessarily work in a gym, you can also use the baby steps. Like maybe today I'm going to go and research gyms in my area. And then the next day I'm going to decide which ones I'm going to go to and take those baby steps to getting in there. It doesn't have to be you go in today and you sign up and then you start going 5 days a week. It can be those small little things. And especially for somebody who's getting into a gym routine for the first time, I'm a big believer that the small steps really is the way to go. And that's 100%. What's going to build that long-term success is those little baby steps. The tricky part is keeping yourself accountable. And that's where a coach comes in.
Yeah. And accountability is super, super important too when it comes to joining a gym, starting out your routine. But no, I think the baby steps, I 100% agree with you with that. So, well, Lydia, thank you so much for telling us about your fitness journey and just everything involved. Again, I really feel like our listeners are going to really, really love this episode and just hearing your story. I close the podcast out with a question, a specific question about community, because on this podcast, our statement is community equals success.
Yeah.
And no matter what way, community always equals success if you put the focus on building and being successful and having your community be successful. So my question to you is, in your life, what time in your life do you feel like community, any community, had a big impact on not only you, but also your success or your current success?
Oh, well, I love that question. So my community does come from the gym that we worked at together. All of my best friends, my husband, I met at the gym that we worked at.
Awesome.
He was my client, and I have just the most incredible people in my life from working at that gym. And both on the client side as well as the coworker side, just so many wonderful, amazing people. And had I not been in that community and had I not helped create that community when I first started in the fitness industry, I don't think I would have lasted as long as I did, because that's what made me feel comfortable. That's what helped me, being somebody with a disability, feel comfortable and confident in that setting, was this community of people that I knew would laugh if I, not at me, but with me,
yes.
when I called someone the wrong name, or if I forgot something that was on the board with the workout and I could say, all right, sighted people, what does the board say? That they would think it was funny and they would still love me and show up and trust me as a coach despite the challenges that I faced. So my gym community really helped build my confidence even more so when I started working in the fitness industry. And it's kind of my entire community still to this day is from there. And I don't think I would be as excited to be working in this industry if it weren't for the community that I got to be part of and that I got to help build.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with you. There's just something different about the company that we worked for. There was just something different about the gyms that we worked at. I mean, I remember all of those service calls that we did. We were always talking about it at all of our gyms and how you know, you could just tell there was an enthusiasm every single day for us, and it definitely filled our cups in life. And that's great to hear that community really helped you, like your bond or your determination in the fitness industry, and your tie to the fitness industry is like stronger now than it ever has been because of that community. Again, community equals success for everything and everybody, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, well said.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Lydia, thank you so much for being on the Reach Forward podcast. Again, I cannot wait for our listeners and watchers to listen to your story.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for the Reach Forward podcast today. We will be having more episodes going through. So for me and Lydia, thank you for watching, and keep reaching forward.